This conference will now be recorded.
Hello everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. So let's see our today's topic. Today we are going to see multiple topics which are very small but very useful. So first we are going to start with managing installed services. So you see, when we say managing installed services, we should know what exactly a service is. Services are programs which are also called as daemons that once started runs continuously in the background and are ready for input or monitor changes in your system. Many important application requires these services must be running behind the scene. For example, you wanted to work with web server, which is also called as HTTPD server or Nginx server, whatever. In the background, there is a service related to it that must be running. If that service is not running, then that application will not work properly, right? Or in fact, it won't even work. So most important services would have an associated service that must be running in the background to make sure that application works. We also call it as daemons, right? Why we call it as daemons? Because they are continuously running in the nature. Once started, they would never stop. So that's the reason we call it as daemons, right? Anyway, now there is some small differences in this services thing, what we have to understand from previous version to this version, and why is that change, you will understand now. See, when we used to work till RHEL 6, you remember in yesterday's class we discussed that the mother service used to be init service, right? And init used to handle all the services. To manage the services, we used to have two commands. Service command that check used to allow you to check the status of the service, start the service, stop the service, reload the service, or finally restart the service. But if you start a service by using service command, it is not guaranteed that after the system reboot also the services would continue to run. Suppose there was a service which was stopped, you started. It will work till the system is up and running. The moment you reboot the machine, you'll not find the service is running anymore because the change what you have done is temporary. Or suppose there was a service running, you stopped. Now reboot the machine, again you will find that the service has started and it is running. So with service, whatever things we do, especially starting and stopping, will only work till till the system is up. After system restart, the same status may not be continued. So if you want to make a change permanent, then we need to go with other command called check config. Now check config is an important command that used to make a service automatically on or off after reboot. For example, there is a service which is very important for you and you want to make sure that even after reboot of system, the service should continue to run. So you can use check config on to make sure the service starts automatically at boot time. And suppose there are services which are not important for you and you don't want them to start automatically. So you can keep them off. When you keep it off, it makes sure that the service never starts automatically. But now guys, when we talk about RHEL 7, as we have learned that in RHEL 7, we don't have init. Init has been replaced by a new service called systemd, a new process called systemd. And systemd is designed very nicely when compared to init. See here, what happens is systemd does not use service and check config command, two commands in fact. It used only a single command called systemctl, which is used for many things, not only for service, but sometimes systemctl is used for different options also. But anyway, systemctl is a command that will allow you to check the status of the service, start a service, stop a service, refresh or reload a service, or restart a service. See the difference between reloading and restarting. Reload will not disturb your ongoing services, it won't stop it. Suppose there is a configuration file related to a particular service. In that configuration file, you have made some changes. Now you want services to update with that change. So we'll go with reload. So reload is not going to disturb anything. Simply it refresh itself by reading the config file. But restart, as the name itself is telling you, it stops the service and start it. So there will be disconnection of service for a moment of seconds, but there will be disconnection. So mostly using reload is a greater idea if you have done any change in the config. But if reload is not working, then the last option is to go with restart only. And again, we have systemctl command only. With systemctl, we will use another option called enable disable, right? So this enable and disable will make sure that a service is automatically enabled, started during boot, or it is disabled or not start during boot time. So this on and off is now replaced by more logical words: enable, disable. Service is enabled during boot or disabled during boot, like that, right? So this is the difference in command line, what we used to work in previous version and what is new in Red Hat 7. So now let's log in into our machine and let's do some practical related to it. Suppose I wanted to check the status of a particular service. Is it running or not? So you can go with a command systemctl and status, right? Now, which service you want to check the status? For example, I wanted to check the status of a service called cron d dot service. All the services will end with dot service name. Now, if you don't know the service name, guys, you can press 2 times tab key after services status, and it would predict the name of the services that you can deal with. So when I say yes, you see most of the services, they are ending with dot service, right? So now if I say systemctl status followed by the service cron d dot service, so it tells you that what is the status of cron d service. It says it is active, running, and over here you see it is telling that it is also enabled. That means right now the service is running and it is enabled during boot. That means automatically this service is going to get activated during boot. It is suggesting you something. Vendor preset means by default, when you install the operating system or install this package, it is preferred by vendor that it should kept enabled. So some important services that should be maintained as enabled. Here vendor preset will tell us that what is recommended by default. Anyway, it's also telling how much memory it is taking, which group it belong, what is the process ID it is using, etc. Now let us say that I don't want to see so much of detail. I simply want to see whether service is active or not. So I'll go with systemctl. There is another option, is active. Which service? crondy.service. So in a summarized way, it just tell you service is active or not. Same way you can say systemctl is enabled. Which service? crondy.service. So this would tell you whether a service is enabled or not. So if you don't want to see the detailed status, these are the shortcuts by using which you can check the status of service. Now let's say it is running and I would like to stop this service. To stop this service, we can go with a command systemctl, systemctl stop followed by the service name. Now you check either is active or you can go back and check the status. You'll find that it is inactive. Okay. Now again, if you want to start back the service, so you can say systemctl start and the service name. Now simply go back and check is active or status. It tells you that the service started just 4 seconds ago. It's right now active. See, all important services might also show you thawing because it is trying to make sure that it should not get immediately shut down or break out. Thawing means it is trying to make sure that slowly the things might be happening without affecting some important things. Okay, but it's fine. You can ignore that warning. When you say active, it gets activated. When you say inactive, it will get inactivated. This thing will be removed automatically after some time. Okay, now let us say that a service, we have made some change in the configuration file. Let's say there is a config file related to cron. I made some changes. Now I want services to read that change and update itself. So what we'll do, we'll go with systemctl reload followed by the service name. When you say reload, it is simply going to reread the config file and it is going to update itself. But when I say restart, just observe here the status. It says the service started 1 minute 28 second. It's going on. But when I say restart, I'll say systemctl restart a service crondy. Now you observe here that the service started 1 second ago. That means the ongoing service was stopped and again it was started. That is the reason we are getting just 1 second ago. The service got stop and start. That is what restart will do. Reload will not stop a service. It simply reads the config file and try to update. Now moving forward, let us say that I would like to make a service permanently enable or disable. For example, if I say systemctl status crondy, you'll find right now the service is enabled. So I want to make it disabled. I don't want the service to start automatically during boot. So I'll say systemctl disable and the service name is crondy. Now if you check the status right now, it might be running, but it is guaranteed that at next boot it is not going to start automatically. Same way, if you want to make it enabled, then you can say systemctl enable and the service. Now it is guaranteed that at next boot the service is going to automatically started. Now let's say I want to do both activities in a single shot. I want to stop a service and disable it together. To do both the things at a time, we go with a command systemctl disable the service cron d and just add hyphen hyphen now. Now hyphen hyphen now can be used at the beginning or after disabled. Both syntaxes are correct. Some people use systemctl hyphen hyphen now disable cron services, or I use systemctl disable service hyphen hyphen now. Both are fine. What it does, it stops the service and disable together. So you see it is inactive and it is disabled both. Now let us say that you want to activate and enable the service together. So you can say systemctl enable, right? And the service name is crond, and you have to say hyphen hyphen now. Now if you just check it out, you'll find out that the service is active and it is enabled. So both the activities can be possible by using this command systemctl enable and hyphen hyphen now by the end. So that's the way how we can work with this particular concept of services to make a service start or enable. Now let's move forward and let's see our next topic, which is introduction to Firewall D. See guys, Firewall D is nothing but a firewall service that has been introduced since Red Hat 7. Prior to Firewall D, we used to have another firewall tool called IP tables, which was little complicated to work with. To make it more simple, Firewall D was introduced. So Firewall D is nothing but a firewall services. See how firewall protects your system. Let us say guys that this is our operating system, and to connect to your operating system, we use different methods, different applications, right? For example, I can reach out this server using FTP server if it is an FTP server, or if it is a web server, I'll connect it through browser using web services. Or if it is a normal connectivity, I may connect with SSH and try to work with that. Same way, you may use Samba, DNS. Different ways are there through which I can connect to my system. And to connect to your system, we require something called ports. Every important service has a related port number. So what is this ports? Ports are nothing but the doors through which we can enter into our system, or they are plugs through which we can connect to our system. Now total how many port numbers are available? You have 65,536 ports are there. For example, if you are using SSH, by default the port number is 22. If you are working with FTP, by default the port number is 21. Same way if you are working with HTTP, port number is 80. If you are working with mail services, SMTP, port number 25 is there. So like that, different ports are there through which people can connect to my system. Now guys, if these ports are not protected, if all the ports are open and you are able to connect from any port you like, then guys, what would be the status of security? Uncontrolled security. People can come from anywhere, can go from anywhere, and you would not be able to protect your system from unauthorized access. So not to have such things, we work with firewalls. So what firewalls will do? They protect the system from unauthorized accesses, right? By default, when you enable port number, it blocks, by default, when you enable firewall, I'm sorry, by default, when firewall is started, all port numbers will be blocked. Now we have to tell firewall that which service or which port number you want to grant access. So only those fellows will be accessed which you have given. By default, all services, all port numbers will be blocked by firewall to make sure that there is no unauthorized access or security breaches. So these firewall, as I told you previously in RHEL 6, we used to manage firewalls by using a tool or a command called IP tables. But from RHEL 7 continued in RHEL 8, we are working with the most simple firewall tool, Firewall D. So that D is nothing but daemon. Most of the services like HTTP end with HTTPD, that is service. FTP vs FTPD, right? So that D at the end stands for daemon. So Firewall D is a service, right, that controls the firewall, right? Now let us see that how this firewall will work. See, first of all, if you want to check firewall services are running or not, you can again go with systemctl status firewall-d.service. So you see it is active and running enabled. If you don't want firewall, which is not a good idea, if you don't want firewall, then you can simply stop the service and disable the service. No firewall protection will be there. Okay. All right. Now let us say that I would like to check firewall status with firewall command line. Firewall also have a command line called firewall CMD. By using this command, you can do many things in your firewall. For example, I want to first of all check the state. So it says firewall is running or not. It is running. Then I'll say firewall CMD hyphen hyphen list all. Now when you run this command, it displays that in your firewall which services are granted access. See, by default, as I told you, all services are blocked by firewall except these services, cockpit and its related port number, DHCP6 client and its related port number, SSH, its related port number. So SSH port number is 22. Automatically port number 22 will be allowed. All default port number for these services will be allowed access. Right? Fine. Now let us say that I would like to allow one more service and its port number in firewall so that it should not be blocked by firewall. Maybe we have configured this machine as FTP server. Now I want FTP to be allowed to be connected by client. So you can say firewall CMD. Now after that, always there are two dashes. Like last now we have checked state, or then we have checked out list all. So there are two dashes definitely after firewall CMD. And then you need to use a keyword add hyphen service. So I want to add or allow a service. Which service? If you know the name, that's fine. If you don't know the name, you can use double tap to find out what are the name of the services that you can add. So when you double tap it, it predicts the name and tell you that these are the names that you can use. There are many, and time to time that list might get more increased. So over here you can see you can allow HTTP, HTTPS, or you can allow FTP service, right? Or you can allow MySQL service, NFS service, RSH service, RDP service. Many are there. Okay, whichever you want, you can allow that. So in my case, I want to allow FTP services. And do you want this change to be temporary or permanent? I
Uh,
want to make it permanent. Yes, Hamid.
yes, I just want a quick one. All those services that showed up, some of them are pre-installed, some of them are part of the kernel, while some are, are part of an application that we already installed on the system, right?
Exactly. Exactly. You're correct.
All right.
You're perfectly correct. Okay, so as I was telling you that these are the services that you can grant. Now I went with permanent option. Permanent option means I want this real rule to be persistent now also and even after reboot also. If you don't use permanent, as of now, the rule will be created, but if system restart, that rule will be gone. So again, you have to allow FTP. So suppose I don't want a temporary rule, I want FTP services to be granted access to the system. People can use FTP and connect to my machine, and this rule I want to make it permanent. So I'll use hyphen hyphen permanent option. So you see it says success. But if you go back and say list all, see although it says it is success, but did you see over here? It's still showing cockpit, DHCP and SSH. There is no FTP information. That means the rule is created, but it did not took effect right now. So whenever you made a rule permanent, then it is mandatory that you should reload firewall services. How you can reload firewall services? You can say systemctl reload firewall. See the rule what you have created, it might have updated in the configuration file. So when I reload, it reread the config and update itself. So you can say systemctl reload, or Firewall also have a reload option. Firewall command hyphen hyphen reload. Although guys, front end I am running a command firewall command reload, but in backend it is actually working systemctl reload command only. So this is just a shortcut to run same systemctl reload for firewall. So whenever you made a change in firewall rules, it is mandatory that you must reload the firewall services. So if I just go back to list all, you see it says that FTP services is now granted. So whichever service you want to grant access to your system, you can allow it in firewall. And whenever you create a rule, never forget to reload the firewall services. Now, if you want to remove that service back, you can say firewall CMD two dashes. And this time I have to say remove service FTP. And I want to make this rule persistent, so I'll use permanent option. Although here it is telling you success, but if you go back and you see FTP services are still granted access. So that means the change is updated back in config, but right now the services has not been affected. So if you have made a change in firewall rule, then we have to use firewall command reload, or you can use systemctl reload also. So you see FTP is gone from the list. Now, sometimes what happens is I don't want to allow service with service name. Most of the Linux administrator do that. As we know, port number, SSH works on 22, FTP works on 21, HTTPS works on 443, or sometimes we use custom ports. For example, I don't want to use port number uh, 22 for SSH. I want to use something else. Then you have to go to configuration file and configure the port over there. By default, SSH works with 22. So if you want, you can disable port number 22 and you can use another port number of your choice, whatever you want to use. But guys, you need to inform firewall that which specific port number you want to allow. in that case. Because if you say allow SSH like with name, then by default firewall will only allow port number 22. Suppose I want to allow port number 555 or 8080. We are going to see one of this configuration in web services. So when we configure a web server, I'll show you that how you can use a custom port and how we have to allow that customized port in firewall. So suppose we have decided to work with HTTP on port number 8080, 8080, right? So as of now, if you want to check that which service is using what port number, you can simply go with netstat hyphen hyphen ntlp, sorry. So it tells you over here that which service is using which port number. Like you see, SSH is working port number 22 and it comes under TCP, right? See, we have two types of mother protocol, TCP and UDP. So T stands over here for TCP and U stands over here for UDP. So it tells you TCP and UDP related services, and it also tells you that which port number is working under TCP and which port number comes under UDP, or which service comes under TCP and which service comes under UDP. So as of now, I have not configured web services over here, but maybe in the coming time we will see that once web server is configured, I wanted to use port number 8080 for it. So you need to find out. See, like here it is telling SSHD or SSH works for port number 22 under TCP. Same way it might tells you that HTTP or HTTPS works under TCP, right? So remember that it comes under TCP. Now I want to allow port number 8080 to work. So you need to say firewall CMD hyphen hyphen. This time I'm going to go with add port. Now don't think over here that you can press double tab and it is going to print all the port numbers. 65,000 plus port numbers are there. Now it cannot be displayed just like that. So you should check which port number you want to use. We have just checked with netstat that what port numbers are used. So we have an idea that which port number is free. So I have seen that 8080 is not used. So I'm going to use it 8080, and I would like to make this rule permanent. You see, it will fail. It says that it is missing protocol. Correct syntax is you have to give port ID followed by protocol. See guys, we just check it out that SSH port number 22 is coming under TCP. So same way you need to check it out. Like we have DNS, it is coming under UDP, right? So we need to check it out that our port number is working with which particular uh, protocol, TCP or UDP. HTTP will use TCP. So I need to tell that use port number 8080 under TCP. That would be the perfect rule. Now guys, if you have made a change and go with list all, you still find that 8080 port number is not allowed. Why? Because you have created a rule permanent, it updated some configuration files, but it is not reloaded. So whenever you have made a rule, you need to use reload option mandatorily. If you don't use reload, the changes will be there in file and it might affect only after reboot. So now I'll go for list all, and you see port number 8080 will now start working, right? So suppose I would like to remove that rule. Maybe I'm done with my work and I would like to get rid of that particular rule 8080 TCP. So if you want to remove it, same command we have to repeat, but instead of add port, we need to say remove port. But again, you have made a permanent rule. So you see right now it is not going to get affected. So whenever we have make any rule, we need to reload the service mandatorily. So you see it is success. Now if I go for list all, you see the services are removed. So this is the way we can work with this firewall concept, right? So as it's an introduction, simple concept we have seen, and this is more than enough for us to allow or block any services in firewall. Okay, fine. Now moving forward, let's move to our next concept, introduction to cockpit. Say guys, you know what exactly the meaning of cockpit is. It's a control station for pilot to fly the aircrafts, right? So same way, here also in our Red Hat environment, they come up with this cockpit concept for UI people, GUI people, UI people, whatever you say. Sometimes what happens is people does not wants to work with command line. They are interested to work in UI environment, people who are non-Linux administrators especially, right? For them, Cockpit is a web-based server management tool. Like nowadays, when you go with AWS or Microsoft Azure, they allows you to connect to their console over website. So you can go to that website, log in, and you can manage your systems. All that thing you can do through website. So similar to it, they have tried to make this concept called cockpit. So what we need to do is, first of all, we need to start that cockpit services. See guys, whenever you log in, the moment you try to log in, you will get a message on your screen. What is that? Activate the web console by using a command systemctl enable now cockpit.socket. Now this is a special service that you need to enable in order to make sure or start it in order to allow working with this cockpit concept. So I'm just running the same command copy paste, and now I'll just check the status of cockpit.socket. So you see it says it is active, it is listening, it is working, and it is enabled. And you see it is listening to a port number 9090. Great, I'll log out now, and again I will log in. Now guys, I'll say root and the password. See, this time the message changed. It says that web console can be accessed by using HTTPS hostname port number 9090 or HTTPS IP address port number 9090. Now, what can I do in this scenario? Simply, I'll take a browser and I'm going to go with that IP address, HTTPS IP address 9090. Let me hit enter. See, for the first time, whenever you are connecting, your browser might give you an issue that your connection is not private, something like that. Nothing to worry, just go to advanced, and over here there is an option proceed to 192.168.10.20. Just click on that. When you click, you'll get a web console. Now here you can log in with any username and password you have. I'm going to log in as root user, and I know the password is Red Hat. Guys, for command line administrators, this is not that much appealing or interesting, because what we can do through command line is much more faster, and we can do many things when compared to UI, right? But anyway, to get some information, health charts and other things are very nice over here. So you can view that thing very nicely. See, you can click on system, you'll get an overview. If you go with view graphs, it shows you the usage in graph that CPU usage, memory, disk, network, all will come in a graphical format, right? Moreover, let us say that I want to check logs. So you can go to logs, and if there are any logs, recent incident, you may get that information here. Or you can check the storage, that is your partitions and all, how many partitions are created, where they are mounted, how much space is used, how much space is free, all that thing, right? And if it is being used by NFS, other things, you may be able to find it. Storage logs also. Networking utilization, it might show you that how your network is being utilized, what is the speed with which it is sending and receiving the packets and all that, right? Containers are different thing. I'm not going to touch that. Accounts. Accounts are nothing but the users. So if you want to add one more user, you can just go with create new account, give the detail, and your account will be created or user will be created. You can start, stop any services you want. See, when you go to services, it displays all the services, details, and information, right? It's taking some more time to gather the information about it, but it might display all the service name. You can just right click and start, enable, disable the services, right? Then you can generate diagnostic reports. Okay, it was displaying some services detail, right? So you can start a service and enable, disable. Just click on any service that you want to start, stop, and you can make sure what you want to do, right? Fine. Also, as I was telling you, you can get some diagnostic reports. What going on in the system? We can deal with kdump, right? You can enable, disable kdump, whatever you want, you can do with that. It's taking time to load, maybe a little slow the things are working. Then you can also deal with SE Linux. If you want, you can put SE Linux in permissive mode, right? And again, you can make it enforcing mode, and you can deal with policies and other things. If there is any software update available, you can go for updation, you can go for subscription. And guys, for command line people also, finally there is something. You can go to terminal. When you click on terminal, it opens a terminal which you can use and you can work with that, right? So all the commands, everything you can work through this command line. So if you don't like the entire tool, at least for command line people, we can access the terminal and we can work with that. And you can change the appearances over here, right? As per your convenience, how you want to work, right? That's up to you. Okay, guys, so fancy thing is there, I could say, which pleases only UI lovers, right? The one who does not wants to work on command line can go for it. But as far as we are concerned, guys, as a Linux administrator, command line should be our first preference rather than any UI tool. Because what we can do on command line is much, much more faster than that UI, and it is more perfect than UI. Sometimes UI fail, you won't get why it is failed. But command line, we can find out at least what's the reason and how to work with them. Okay. So this is how this UI tool will work. If it pleases you, you can go for it and you can work with that. Now, one last thing we are going to cover up, that is another small topic, backup and restore. Now, guys, when I say backup and restore, don't think that you are going to learn the complete system backup and restore. This is just simple backing up and restoring of your data. See, full system backup and restore is done by a proper backup team, like we have TSM, networker, data domain, or Abomar. Many are there that would do this, backup and restore concept. Here, what we are learning is, suppose you have an important folder containing lots of very important data. So you want to take a backup of it, you want to compress it, and you want to keep it. How to do that? That's the typical scenario what we are going to discuss. For example, I have an etc folder. Now this etc folder, let's say it contains all the configuration and which is important for me. So what I want is I want to take it as a backup and keep it. So as of now, assume the size is 200 MB. To collect the backup of etc, we use one utility called tar, which is by default installed in every Linux operating system. You don't have to get it separately. Star will allow me to take the backup of your important data. Now, when you collect the data in tar format, little bit reduction will be observed. From 200 MB, the size is reduced to 190 MB, something like that, right? But suppose, guys, I'm taking the backup of 100 GB, then I need a place 100 GB to keep that backup, because whatever backup I'm collecting, I need to keep that backup somewhere. If the size of backup is 100 GB, I need 100 GB space to store that backup. So what I want is to store the backup. Anyway, I'm not going to use it immediately. Whenever there is a need only, I'll use it. So why not to compress and keep it somewhere, so that for 100 GB, I don't need another 100 GB space to store it. So in that scenario, we go with some compressing agent like gzip. There are many compression agent, guys. You have simple zip, you have gzip, you have bzip, you have 7-zip. There are no full forms for it, guys, right? But there are many zipping agent. Widely used zipping tool is gzip, which again comes by default in Red Hat environment. We don't have to install it separately. So once you do that zipping, you see that the size will be reduced to around 20 MB. If not 100% reduction, at least 70 to 80% reduction would be definitely there. So to keep 200 MB data backup, I just need 20 MB with the help of compression. And when you go on internet, many big software like Oracle database, which comes in GBs and something, right? Or Nagios or SAP application, Temenos application, they are available in tar and gz format. So whenever you see a file with that format, it is tar backup and gz compressed. So we need to download such files from internet, and if you want to use it, first of all you have to uncompress the file, right, or unzip the file, and then you have to extract the data from that tarball. Many big software which supports on Red Hat, you will find they are available in tar and gz format only, because the size would be big. They'll compress and keep that file. Now you need to download it and you have to use it, but to use it you have to first of all unzip and then extract the data from that tarball. So let us learn how to create a tarball of our choice and how to zip it and then unzip all that activity. So first of all, I'm going to show you how to back up a file or directory using tar format. See, tar is little peculiar. Normally, guys, whenever you are copying or moving a data, you'll say command source followed by destination, what you want to copy and where you want to put it. But tar works in a reverse format. In tar, you need to say tar hyphen cvf, create verbose, and do it forcefully. right? So first you need to mention that where you want to keep this backup and with what name you want to maintain that backup. Then you have to mention source. So first I need to give destination, then I need to give source. Normally first we'll give source and then destination. But in this concept, first I need to give destination and then I need to give source. So let me show you. See, as of now, if I just check out du-h etc, I want to check the size of etc folder. It is displaying all the files and everything, and lastly it is showing etc size. I can do some filtering here. I can say show me just last line. So you see etc size is 30 MB. It's a fresh machine we are using hardly from a month. On production you'll find sizes might be very different, but over here it's okay, 30 MB. Now I would like to keep the backup of it in OPT folder. So I'll go with a command tar create verbose forcefully, right? And I'll say keep the backup in OPT with whatever choice name you like. Suppose I'm going to call it hc.tar. .tar extension is mandatory. I told you that in Linux extensions are not important in every case, but few cases it is very, very important. One of them is here. You need to give .tar, otherwise the file will not recognize properly, it won't work, right? And I want to say that collect the backup of whole etc folder. If you say collect the backup of slash, then entire system backup it will collect. So I don't want the whole system data, I just want etc. So you see very quickly just 20 MB was there, it backed up. Now I'll go to OPT. You see that your data is back up here. What's the size du-h? It says it is 28 MB. Actual size was 30 MB. After backup, it became 20 MB. Now I would like to compress it so that the size is reduced to more. To compress it, we have to go with a command gzip and the file name. There is no full form for that G. It's just gzip and file name. So I just need to say gzip and hc.tar. See, automatically, first of all, you will find that extension is changed. So we did not add a gz. This command will automatically add that extension. Now, if you check the size du-h hc.tar.gz, what's the size? 6.9 MB. We started with 30 MB, then we came to 28 MB, and now you can see 6.9 MB. Now, same way, suppose if the file size was 300 MB, it come to 280 MB, and finally it would come to 60 MB. So doesn't it a great compression? GBs and TBs of data, if you're backing up with this compression, we don't need that much big space to store the backup. I can store backup with small size. The same format you will find many important files on internet, especially big softwares. So you have to download them, you have to unzip it, and you have to extract the data from it. So how can I unzip? See guys, if it is just showing .z, that means it is zip. If it is showing GZ, it is gzipped. If it is showing BZ, it is bzip. So accordingly, we use unzipping command. To unzip, we have a command. For example, if it is just zip, you have to use unzip command. If it is bzip, you have to say bunzip, right? Or if it is gzip, you have to say gunzip. People call it gunzip, but there is no such gunzip. It is g unzip. I'm unzipping. Okay, before unzipping, maybe I would like to see the content of this zipped. What are the data present inside it? So you can make use of tar command and you can say tvf, t to display the output, and the file name. The output will be very big. I'll go with more option. So you see it is showing each and every file, what is the size and all that thing. It is displaying permissions and all inside it. So T will display the content of the zip and tar file. Now I would like to unzip it, so I'll go with G unzip and the file name. Now you do ls, automatically you will find that the .gz extension is gone. Now if you just look out du-h, you'll find that the size is back to 28 MB. Now guys, I need to extract the data from that tarball and use it. To extract the data, I'll go with a command tar-xvf, right? Now you need to just say which file you want to extract, sc.tar, right? Now when I hit enter, you see all the data of that particular tarball will be extracted in a folder called etc. You check du-h etc. Let's go with tail-1. So you'll find that entire 30 MB data has been extracted. Now I'll show you one more thing here. Let's say that I want to collect the backup one more time. See, I want to do both activities in a single command. I want to zip and create a backup in a single shot. So in order to do both at a time, you have to go with tar-ZCVF, where Z stands for zipping, and by default it uses gzip format only. So I'll say tar.zcvf. I want to zip and create a backup. Right now, where I want to store it, I want to store it under opt. With what name? hc.tar.gz. Full format you have to give it. Or there is a shortcut format for combination of both, which is called as tgz. Tgz means tar and gzip together. Now what you want to backup? etc. So you see backup is completed, file is ready. If you check the size, you see directly it is 6.9 MB. So I have bypassed one step. Earlier I archived it, I tarred it, and then I applied zip. Here I told archive and zip together. So automatically it collects the backup into a folder and it zip it, right? Okay, now let us say that I did not want to change the format of my file. I don't want to zip it. Let it original file be as it is. What I want to do is, without unzipping, I directly want to extract the data from it. Original thing should be as it is. No change should be done to it. Simply, I want to extract the data out of it without disturbing original format. So you can say tar again -z. So from the zip file, I'm telling extract, show me verbose output and do it forcefully. From which file? hc.tgz. So you see original file is as it is. You check the size. There is no difference in original file. But in the side, you can see there is a folder created. And if you check, you'll find out that 30 MB data has been extracted from it. So these are the ways, guys, how you can collect the backup of your personal thing and you can maintain. More on it, I would request you to read man pages, please, because it's a huge list of things, right? Like adding a simple file or creating a file inside it, appending some data inside it. Later on, maybe you want to add something, update something. All these things you can do it by using tar. See, examples are also given over here. So if you just use these examples, you will be able to add more data, Many things you can do, whatever you want to do. Just follow the man pages, or you can say info tar. That might give you even more detail on how to work with this star concept, right? It's a whole tutorial on that, how to work. So please go through that thing and you can find out how to work with this particular concept. It contains examples and all. So either you can go with man command or you can go with this info command and get more and more detail about all these activities, whatever we have done, and even more. So that is it, guys, from today's class. If you have any queries or questions, you can put your questions.
I have a question. How should I know that the system is running since the last restart? Any command to check the uptime of the system?
You told
Only
the
a command.
command by yourself, uptime.
I'm not. Okay. And one more thing, suppose in the real-time scenario, if I'm working on a RHEL machine,
Hmm.
and most of the cases, sometimes some slash db2 or slash var logs gets full.
Hmm.
Okay, and sometimes it says that the disk space on the file system is higher than 95% or 98%. So in
Hmm.
that case, being a system admin, what actions we need to take?
See,
Suppose
if
what
disk
happens if
space
it reaches 100% utilization?
100% if it reaches, then you will not be allowed to perform any IOPS. Input output will be blocked. So you need to immediately consult the DB team or whatever it might be. If they can rotate the logs or something, we can move out some logs. Or if the disk is getting filled up, better to get more space. That's the reason we work with LVMs. If it is in the LVM format, we can expand the capacity. You should also check that, if var is separately available, make sure that var is not getting filled up regularly. And one more concept is there. Unfortunately, we are not going to cover up in our curriculum, but what you can do is you can rotate logs. See, when you rotate logs, what happens every 30 days, every 40 days or 60 days, whatever frequency you have sent, old logs will be deleted and new logs will be added. So that will make sure that the logs will not fill up the huge space, right? But if you are working in a critical environments like banking sectors or something, they want to keep the logs for a long time. So in that scenario, we can only expand the capacity of var or other things to make sure that even if the logs are getting filled up, it is not affecting our working environment. So if disk space is completely utilized, then before that you have to make sure that there are some other disks available from which you are giving spaces to your applications, databases, and important location.
Okay.
Okay, how many ports you can add to firewall in one time? Basically, we can add one port at a time. But if you want to add multiple, then what you can do is you can say firewall command hyphen hyphen add port, and then you can use that curly bracket, right? And you can say, I want to add 60 with TCP, 70 or 50 with UDP. And after that, you can say hyphen hyphen permanent, right?
Can I shut the port and unshut the port, or what are the ports? Open ports are there for
See,
security reason?
if
Okay.
you want to block or unblock the port number, you can deal with firewall. But shutting a port number is exactly like stopping a service and stopping. So if you don't want to use any port number, then you have to go to configuration file related to it, block it, restart the service, port number is gone.
Okay. So that means keeping ports open is good for the security reason or not?
No, no, no. Keeping port numbers, unnecessary port numbers, if you open, that means you are inviting people to
Yeah.
connect to your port number. It won't be good. That's the reason when you run netstat-ntlp, you see by default how many port numbers are allowed.
Yes,
Only the
yes, yes.
services which are running, that port numbers are allowed.
Correct.
Leaving unwanted port numbers open is inviting people to hack your system.
And can I check like this is the only command, right? Open ports I cannot check any command for the open ports.
These are all open ports only, na? These
Okay.
ports which are running, it is displaying. If it is listening, you see over here it says listen. Listen means what? It is listening open right now.
Yeah, open, correct. And one last question, sorry. Uh, I need to pull out on the weekly basis report of the server utilization.
That you have to do it through scripts.
Okay.
So better you go with our scripting videos, what I'll be sharing. There you will get
Okay.
answer for this question.
Okay. Thank you so much.
You said you'll be sharing that one, or we're gonna do that one? I didn't get that part.
No, I'll be sharing that. See, I was just waiting for some course to be completed or to reach at least 60-70%. I'll share that videos with you people because I want you first to concentrate on Linux, then you can go with scripting concept. I'll share it. Maybe by next week you'll get all those access to those videos. Okay, there is one more question. If you install HTTP and you didn't add firewall, you can access. No, if you install HTTP, that will not make sure that it will be accessible. After installing HTTP, you have to start the services of HTTP and you have to allow HTTP in firewall. So if you have installed HTTPD, you have started the services of HTTPD and you have not added in firewall, then firewall will block HTTP. So after doing all your regular course of work, you must also allow that service in firewall. If you have not added in firewall, you won't be able to reach through web browser. So web services must be allowed in firewall to work first.
How can I do the health check of a system?
We'll see in the coming time. I'll tell how we can do that. Basically, we have some health scripts. By running those scripts, like you have perfmon script and something else that would be done by your scripting guys. By using that, we can check it. But the other ways, manually by using certain commands, we'll discuss in process management and performance tuning concept. I'll tell you how can you check that.
Okay. One last question. These scripts you said I can modify and I can use on my environment, right? That will
Of
not
course. Which
affect
scripts you
any.
are to?
I mean, if suppose you're sharing any script, for example, health check
I'm
of the server.
I'm sharing the logic. Now you have to understand it is suitable for your environment or not,
Ah,
right?
okay.
So I cannot just guarantee that whatever script you might be seeing, you can just go and apply your environment. You should be sure enough it is suitable for your environment or not, right? So what we are learning in scripting class is logic, how to write a script. Now you become a script writer, so you can do your scripting that's suitable to your environment, what commands are required. Scripting is all about logic, how to get something done automatically. So you just need to modify certain things as per your requirement, your environment, and you can get your result out.
Okay.
Okay, I have upgraded yesterday's class also, so you might check again and then come to me. I've already uploaded that. You might find yesterday's recording. And yes, we are going to cover basics of Ansible, not the complete Ansible course. but we are going to cover some important aspect of Ansible so that if your environment is automated with Ansible, you should be at least knowing some important things related to Ansible, because Ansible again itself is a complete course and a high-end course, very advanced course are there for automation of your environments. So here we are going to cover up in this curriculum Ansible basics like how to install Ansible, writing playbooks, understanding playbook, that is very important. All that basics we are going to cover. But once our Linux course is completed, then last week we will cover Ansible.
Okay. And related to the concept of patching,
We will talk about that coming time, Abdullah. All you want in the same time today only.
no, no, dear.
Then we will see that coming time. See, we are in a journey. Slow and steadily, every station we will come. We'll come to that point also.
Oh,
Software management is associated with patching and all. So there I'll tell you that how you have to download a software and update. Basically, what happens is when we update something from one version to other, especially in terms of kernel, that would be called as patching, kernel patching and all, right? Normal software we call upgradation, kernel upgradation is patching. So there I'll tell you how you can download it and do it. In the software management class, I'll show you that. Okay guys, so we'll stop the session here. Please practice this thing today. This is not the last class. We are still going to have many more classes tomorrow, day after tomorrow, till we cover Ansible. So we'll stop the session here. Let's meet up tomorrow and continue. Anyway, I have another class after this. So we'll stop the session, guys. Let's meet up tomorrow. Thank you very much.